cut off again in the middle of my damn sentence. Okay, so I was talking about Bones, how this next movie is Sword of the Stranger is much too gory for younger audiences. I'm not repeating what I'm going to talk about, so I'm not going to try. So now we're going to talk about Masashi Ando, who made Tsurugi Torenji Muku Hadan, or Sword of the Stranger, which was released in 2007. Now, Sword of the Stranger is a Jideke, or Edo period, Dageki, anime with more than its fair share of awesome samurai action, like Samurai Jack or Afro Samurai and all that junk. Now, the narrative follows a young orphan boy named Kotaro and his trusty Shiba Inu, Tobimaru, as they flee between monasteries and are hunted by a group of Chinese Ming Dynasty warriors. The boy and his dog happen to come upon a nameless Ronin, or samurai without a master, and enlist his services as a bodyguard, not knowing the depth of the corruption of their pursuers. Now, I'm not usually one for period pieces of any description, but this movie keeps the pace up, and every fight scene will make you cringe as people are decapitated or clean in two. It's also pretty neat to see the Chinese characters switch back and forth between speaking Chinese and Japanese, as Japanese speakers are a rarity in most kinds of animes. But I know there's one that does speak Chinese in it, but it's a yaoi OVA, not a movie, so sorry. This movie doesn't really have any deep mysteries to solve or novel lessons to teach, but it looks and sounds great. It's very entertaining. I keep hearing noises. And is well worth the price of admission, whatever it costs on Blu-ray these days. Recommended for anyone looking for a visual as opposed to cerebral entertainment. Don't let the setting scare you anyway from its worthwhile anime movie. So that was fast. Now we're going into Brian's Base, and then we're going to talk about Takehiro Omori. But Brian's Base is one of the behind-the-scenes workhorses of the anime industry. They have handled various levels of in-between and key animations for anime feature films like Children Who Chase Lost Voices, Ponyo, and Tekkonken Street. It's hard to say that word. And TV series or TV series movies for Detective Conan, Crayon Shin-chan, Eden of East, Eureka 7, Full Metal Alchemist, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, Naruto, and Soul Eater, to name a few. In 2011, they provided to everyone that they are more than just a behind-the-scenes company by adapting the popular one-shot manga Hotarubi no More into a noteworthy theatrical film. Hopefully in the future they will continue pursuing their promising solo production career. So now let's talk about Takeshiro Omori. And this one movie called Hotarubi no More, that's actually the title of it, or in English-wise, the Forest in the Forest of the Fireflies, which was released in 2011. Now, while weighing in as the second shortest film in this guide at a mere 44 minutes, Hotarubi no More is surely worthy of every moment spent watching it. Now, the plot begins with a 6-year-old girl named Hotaru Takegawa, who ends up getting lost in a mountain forest full of spirits. She is found by a mysterious kitsune, or fox, mask-wearing man named Gin, who then leads her back to safety. She returns to the mountain to visit Gin every summer, and the narrative focuses on how the nature of her relationship with Gin develops over time. Now, the story isn't really surprising, but it's beautifully and emotionally depicted, covering most of the emotional spectrum, from laughter to tears. It's a heartfelt and genuine anime movie. Hotarubi no More comes highly recommended, even considering its relatively short length, and it's sure to make you hope this doesn't become Brian's Base only solo film, which it looks like it kind of did. So now we're getting to Gainax, and we're going to talk about Hiroyuki Yamaga and Hideki, I don't know, almost sounds the same. Now, Gainax is primarily known for their anime TV series such as Neon Genesis Evangelion, and making movies for both their own and other studios' series. Luckily, there was a pleasant exception to this made in 1987, where the studio ended up producing a really good movie out of the blue. The anime movies based on their series are also usually quite good, essentially none of which are suggested for children. Now we're going to talk about Hiroyuki Yamaga. and his movie Oritsu Uchigun Onemisu no Tsubasa, or Royal Space Force: The Wings of Oneimais, I guess I say it, which was released in 1987. Now, this is the only standalone original anime movie ever to come out of Gainax, and it's still a gem in any anime collection. Not only have the animation and sound held out fairly well over the time, particularly when compared to other anime movies that came out more than 20 years ago, but the story is still as relevant and enthralling as it has ever been. Now, the dramatic story follows a guy named Tsurutsugu, I guess how you say it, Landant, who eventually decides that he'll be the first man in space to give his country, which is on the verge of war, something to look up to and dream about. Of course, Landant runs into many issues in his training, social, and spiritual lives, striving to attain his dream, and that's where the meat of the movie comes from. And it's a very good watch, and particularly great for people who appreciate cinematic allegory. It's recommended for all older anime watchers, as this movie is not appropriate for or exciting enough for children. Now let's get into Hideaki Anno. I really don't want to talk about this series, though. I don't know why, but I am not a fan of the series Neon Genesis Evangelion. I'm sorry, please don't hate me. I just can't get into it. It is so depressing. The first episode, I couldn't watch it because it was still so depressing. I mean, come on. Okay, let's just talk about it. Evangelion Shin Gebugan Gejoban. I'm not going to try talking about it. So if we're not going to talk about Evangelion 1.0, You Are Not Alone, which was released in 2007. I hate you, Shinji. I'm sorry. Now, I'm not hating because it's just the story-wise is confusing to me and depressing. It's limited North American theatrical release. Now, you will get blown away, but mainly for me, it's only this anime graphically amazing. But the sound is apparently striking. The theater rocked with explosions, and you almost felt ill seeing and hearing the often quite bloody deaths of the angels attacking Tokyo 3. I had no previous experience with the story of Neon Genesis Evangelion, so I was also struck by all the characters and their personable qualities. Now, Funimation's English dub of Evangelion 1.0 was as good as they get and is easily interchangeable with watching it with subtitles, and probably actually better for native English speakers. Whether or not you have experienced Neon Genesis Evangelion before this movie cannot be recommended enough. This is what they're saying, I'm not saying it. Evangelion veterans will find that their favorite series has been lovingly touched up, and newcomers will also be astounded at the quality of this remake of the first 6 episodes in Neon Genesis Evangelion series. This movie can be watched in an even more touched up version called Evangelion 1.11. You are not, parentheses, not alone, on Blu-ray, highly recommended, or DVD. I'm not still watching it. And now we're getting into Evangelion Shin Gekijoban. Evangelion 2.0, You Cannot Advance, which was released in 2009. 2 years after the first one. Now, once again, this person was privileged to catch Evangelion 2.0 on its very limited North American theatrical release, and once again they would say they were blown away. The version they saw was subtitled, which normally is recommended, but in lieu of the fantastic dub of Evangelion 1.0, they were a little disappointed that it hadn't been given the same treatment for theaters. The animation revitalization continues to be absolutely top-notch in the second entry of the series. Every single part of the anime looked great, while it still hosts to the fan service and occasional humor that the Evangelion series became known for. This is a much darker and shocking movie than the first. New characters introduced in this movie very quickly become part of the family, and you'll, occasionally, and you'll be just enthralled with them as the returning cast. An anime delight, definitely suggested for viewing, but only if you're an adult that has seen the first movie, as it is definitely much more gory and fan service heavy than the series first entry. Who would have thought that it was impossible? I still don't want to watch, though. And note, they actually said Evangelion 3.33 you cannot redo is an inscrutable mess and it was purposely excluded from this guide. They say, don't say I didn't warn you. So now again, the studio Shaft, which was formed in 1975. Shaft didn't really start making a name for it themselves as original anime creators until they came out with the popular 12-episode anime series Puella Magi Madoka Magica in early 2011. In spite of its looks, Madoka Magica is definitely not for kids, but is a uniquely compelling series for mature audiences. Now we're going to be talking about Akiyuki Shimbo. My bad. Now we're going to talk about Puella Magi Madoka Magica, the movie, Part 1, Beginnings, which is released in 2012. Holy crap, I don't want to read all this. Clocking in at 130 minutes, the first Madoka Magica movie is certainly on the lengthy side, but with the series' first 8 episodes, to summarize, the plot advances at a good clip. Having not seen the series, I actually also didn't see the movie. It's a unique anime in many ways. Madoka Magica starts off predictably saccharine, but very quickly starts unrelentingly throwing out shocking plot twists and dramatic animation style changes. There were no less than 4 times during the movie that this person has their disbelief and say WTF at the shocking turn of events. The increasingly complex narrative essentially follows a girl named Madoka Kaname, and she and her friends are approached by a mysterious cat-like creature named Kyubey, who promises to grant them any wish they desire in exchange for becoming magical girls who fight witches that are invisible to the average person. The cost of making a contract with Kyubey is far greater than either of them could ever imagined, and they learn this both through their own experiences and those of other magical girls in the city. Being very true to its source material, there will be nothing astounding about Madoka Magica Beginnings for those who have already seen the series, aside from some nicely improved visuals. Whether you're already a Madoka Magica fan or not, though the first movie is an excellent and intriguing production that comes highly recommended. Now we're going on to Puella Magica Madoka Magica, the movie Part 2, which is Eternal, also released in 2012. It falls short of the greatness of its predecessor, even though it is required viewing for anyone who has seen Part 1. With only 4 episodes left to summarize, content is spread a bit thin and is oddly padded on a couple occasions, like when the movie unceremoniously breaks from the narrative to run a seemingly meaningless anime opening like interlude. Part 2 more or less wraps up everything nicely, just as the anime series did, which is rare for an anime of this level of gravitas, and certainly appreciated, but at almost a full half hour shorter than Part 1, it makes you wonder if they couldn't have split the series content more evenly between the first 2 movies. Madoka Magica Part 2 is in a manner that takes a good deal longer than it should to grasp, and it fully explains Homura Akemi's mysterious origins, and at least just how the magical girls managed to take on the powerful witch, Walpurgisnacht, I can't say that word, Walpurgisnacht. Certainly a lot more out there than the superb Part 1. Madoka Magica Part 2 does its job of tying the series' original story neatly up while setting the stage for the much anticipated Part 3 that opened in the Japanese theaters at the end of 2013. Once you've seen Part 1 but taken as a movie on its own, its merits are unfortunately fewer than its outstanding predecessors. Now note, Puella Madoka Magica, the movie Part 3, Rebellion, is a divisive movie. It is considered by many to be a giant middle finger for Shinobu to fans of the series and is purposely excluded from this guide, so enjoy the first two for what they are and watch the third at your own peril. Now we're going to get into this one movie, which is under Anime Innovation Tokyo. Now, Innovation Tokyo, AIT, is a unique anime studio, as they don't work in quite the same way as the others featured in this list. AIT, instead of producing solely theatrical films with big-name directors aims to encourage young and unique talent in the anime industry by finding sponsorship for and producing short, usually around half an hour, innovative anime films. Pilot films are first made to drum up support for the projects, and then the films are more expensively produced and widely distributed. While while always visually and thematically striking, unless otherwise noted, AAT films are not recommended for viewing with younger family members. So let's get into Atsuya Uki, who did Senkoru, or Senrolo. Okay, I can't say it. Which was released in 2009. Now this comes at a mere half an hour. Senkoro qualifies as the shortest anime movie featured in this guide, but there are a great many things that make up for what it lacks in length. Now, this was the first anime movie written and designed and directed and animated by a single person, by Atsuya Uki, that Anime Innovation Tokyo was able to get a giant anime Appendix to bankroll. It took Uki-san 2 years to make this half-hour movie by himself, but as with all AAT productions, its quality and uniquenesses are second to none. Now, the movie's plot follows Tetsu, a male high school student, and his blob-like shape-shifting, psychically controlled creature named Senko, as they battle another student named Shu, who controls two such creatures and is hoping to make Senko his third. Tetsu and Senko get more help than they are expecting from an inquisitive girl named Yuki, who was amazed by Senko's abilities and that Tetsu had been hiding him for so long. You definitely have to have extra 30 minutes to spare to watch this superb little anime film. Now, the only bad thing about it is that you'll want to see more. Luckily for all of us, Senkoro 2 is currently in production, so we shouldn't have to wait too long to see more of Tetsu, Senko, and Yuki's exploits. So now to the next production studio is Square Enix, and we'll talk about Hironobu Sakaguchi and Tetsuya Nomura. Square Enix has, this will be the last to talk about. This will be the last studio, and these two people are the last two directors to talk about. But Square Enix could tell you, most gamers could tell you, primarily makes video games, not anime movies. This is very true, but they also have made some most compelling CG anime movies currently available. While some people would say that they are not strictly anime movies, they fit the generally accepted definition of anime being animation originating in Japan. Now, whether or not you think Square Enix should technically be included in this list, their movies are of unarguably high quality and are just as laudable as their more rigidly defined counterparts in this guide. So let's talk about Hironobu Sakaguchi, who did Final Fantasy, or Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within, which was released in 2001. Now, this was directed by Hironobu Sakaguchi, like I said, the creator of Final Fantasy. The world's first photorealistic CG feature-length film still holds up well against the other entries in the now saturated CG movie genre. For a movie that came out almost a decade before James Cameron's Avatar, the visuals still hold up well, avoiding the uncanny valley and remaining impressive as opposed to distracting. The movie's plot does not really relate to a specific Final Fantasy game, but instead follows a group of people in the year 2065 as they try to free the world from an alien race called Phantoms that can easily kill people on contact. While this movie did not perform well financially in its original theatrical run, it is still a great experience and is suggested for anime and film lovers alike. And finally, the last director and movie that I will be talking about is the director Tetsuya Nomura, who did Final Fantasy Seibun Abumento Children, and I saw this movie, was Final Fantasy IV Advent Children, which was released in 2005. I saw this back in middle school, my last year, I think. No, my second year in middle school. Now, do yourself a huge favor and watch the Final Fantasy IV Advent Children complete version of this movie on Blu-ray, as it is a full half hour longer than the original version. It's nicely touched up, widely available, and now actually quite cheap to buy as well. And this is directed by Tetsuya Nomura, who has directed and designed many of the games in the Final Fantasy series. Advent Children is one of the most visually stunning movies ever made. The movie's plot picks up around 2 years after the end of Final Fantasy IV game, and follows Cloud Strife and his entourage as they try to save Edge City's children, and some other adults, from being corrupted by a disease called geostigma, being perpetuated by the 3 mysterious men looking for their mother, Jenova, an alien being of sorts that is the cause of the disease. While the plot may be very heavy for those unacquainted with the story of Final Fantasy IV, I saw it with no prior knowledge of the game's story and completely enjoyed every minute of the movie. The action in the movie goes by really fast, so you'll want to think twice about whether you want to watch the movie in its original in Japanese or in English, especially since in an unprecedented move, all of the characters' mouths movements were completely redone to match the English voices. A movie through which you can palpably feel the years of hard work from a very dedicated team of individuals that went into it. Advent Children really is a cinematic milestone that should be on everyone's to-watch list. Oh, cheers, I talked all that through. Okay, so that's it for this movie list, the movie guides, and tomorrow I will be starting the OVA guide. And there's 2 others that I will be doing. Holy crap. Oh great, there'll be anime anthology movie guide coming soon, so which will be dealing with Animatrix, Genius Party, Short Piece, Batman, Gotham Knight, Neo Tokyo, Halo Legends, Robot Carnival, and all that jazz. And then we'll be doing also the TV series movie guide. Which would be like the anime series movies that we all know and love. Mainly like One Piece, they have a lot of movies, Bleach, Naruto, and Case Closed, of course, Pokemon, all that jazz. So that'd be a lot of that, and of course the OVA guide. I don't think there'd be a lot of OVA guides, but probably there will be, I don't know. One movie, or OVA, I will also be talking about, which I've recently seen, which will be of Ghost in the Shell and all that jazz. And some of the animes that we have talked about. We'll be back at talking about, Production IG, we're going to be into Shinkai again, Sunrise, Madhouse, Yamato Works, we'll be doing like Kakurembo, Freedom, Robot Carnival, Sonic the Hedgehog, Fooly Cooly, Karas, all that jazz, so we'll be talking about those. So I'm going to go to bed because I'm beat and it's almost 2 in the morning. So I hope you like these videos. If you haven't seen the very first video, it should be on my channel. And I'm going to go. So, Secret Flaherty here. She's out. Bye-bye.